Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have a special guest. And today, we truly have a special guest. We have former Congresswoman Marie Newman. She has an amazing website, marienewmanstudio.com. We're going to talk about just her amazing career, everything that she's been up to, but also she has a new book that you need to go check out on Amazon. It's real simple. It's A Life Made from Scratch, Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, Mompreneur, and Unstoppable Political Activist. So first and foremost, I know you are always on the go, making big things happen. So I thank you for your time today. How are you doing today?
I am well, and it's great to be here.
Well, I appreciate your time. Let's start out with your career. When it comes to everything that you've been able to just build for yourself professionally and being a former Congresswoman, kind of paint the picture for our audience. What sparked your interest to want to be part of that whole world?
Well, if you had asked me probably even 5 years before I got into politics, if I was going to be running for Congress, I would have said, and what drugs are you on? Because that's really crazy crap. So I think my sense of fairness and injustice got me pointed in this direction. You know how they say God always laughs when you make plans? I think that happened to me over and over again over time. But early on, even in my high school years, I was working on volunteer projects where I felt there was injustice. And so whether it was homelessness or immigration issues or whatever it is, I worked on it early and often, women's rights, and then ending gun violence and a bunch of things. And I had helped through volunteer work, I had helped a lot of political campaigns. In my professional world, I was in marketing and ran my own management consulting business. I started a national nonprofit to end bullying, a bunch of things. But what became crystal clear to me is when, this is roughly 2016, I had worked hard on Hillary Clinton's campaign. And then when we had the result that we did, I was absolutely crushed, but also very scared. And I always say you can use one of two things with fear, right? You can use it and channel it and put it in a good direction, or you can let it swallow you. And I chose to put it in a good direction and run for Congress, even though I had never even run for student council in high school. So that's my trajectory.
When you think about the time that we're in, everyone knows it's not a stranger to anyone. We have a lot of political differences. When you look at how people are living their lives and reacting to certain headlines. I mean, we had some recent headlines over the weekend with some violence going on. Yeah. What are some of the things that you try to keep intact as far as trying to help people understand politics?
Yeah, it's, what I always say is that I like to believe, sometimes naively, that all Americans and all politicians really just want this country to do well and thrive and prosper. But I also know intellectually and rationally that there are a lot of people that, driven by ego, if they did not invent it, it shouldn't be, right? So the reason we have all of these horrible things in our country, like racism and hate and bigotry, is over ego, is that those folks that possess that horrible feeling are obsessed with their own ego, and that they or their group or whatever they want to say is best, right? So for me, what I tell people is that if we all can just really refocus and realize that most Americans just want to have, fun with their friends, have a family life, be able to afford what they need in their life, and have a good life, and be as prosperous as they can in whatever that means to them. It can be prosperous with the number of friends they have, the most fun that they have, whatever it is, right? So their version and how they ever measure that. But so I try to tell people that, let's not condemn those that brought us to where we are today, even though I have to tell you, I'm still getting over. I'm trying to authentically forgive everyone that elected this president. I'm having trouble. I'm getting there. But we do have to work with them, because it's not that simple. There are people in this country that definitely want to do harm to others, and it's hard to forgive them. There are definitely people that just think that there's always a quick fix, and I think that was the preponderance of the people that voted for Trump. And then there are people that have a wide variety of reasons for voting, which what I thought was the most amazing candidate we've had to date is Kamala Harris. I mean, I put everything into her race. And so today I tell people, if someone comes to you and says, you know what, I get it. Trump was a bad choice now. I get it. You know what? Accept them and say, okay, let's move forward. Let's not even talk about the past. Let's move forward and go down a better path.
When you think about advocacy, you have been an advocate for bold policies like Medicare for all. But how do you try to look at some bipartisanship opportunities? Because at the end of the day, like you said earlier, Americans want to find some common ground somewhere. Yeah.
And what's funny is that 70% of our nation wants Medicare for all, 70, which means a big chunk of Republicans and independents want it too. So the real reason we don't have it, and let's just be crystal clear, I want everybody to listen, is because of money in politics. It's because healthcare insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies give Democrats and Republicans a lot of money. And those two types of companies do not want Medicare for all. You know why? Because it'll make us healthier. It'll make us all get along better. And it will be better for everyone. It'll be better for the world. And those are bad when you run companies where your products are dependent on sick people, right? So we are not going to have Medicare for all until we get money out of politics. And so I have two goals before I die, is to get money out of politics and to have healthcare for all. So I'm working, in fact, I'm going to be in DC this week working on that very project. So there's a way, there is a path forward.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching this online, talking to our special guest today, former Congresswoman Marie Newman. Go to her website, marienewmanstudio.com. We're going to be talking about her book in a few, but before we get into that, when you see how you're still involved in the political realm, you still have a voice, you still have influence. When you look at policies that affect gun reform, child care, what are some of the things that you've seen other nations do to kind of maybe figure out, and what's some of the things that we can do maybe bipartisanly to find some solutions?
Thank you for that. So two huge initiatives that I was part of when I was in office in 21 to 23, I really fought hard for universal health care and universal childcare. If we have those two things, it really brings our country to a place where people can afford their everyday. So I used to talk about when I campaigned that I'm worried about your everyday. I'm not worried about one single issue. I'm worried about your everyday. So what is in your everyday? Can I afford my house? Can I afford to get my kids soccer shoes? Can I afford to go to the doctor? Like, what can I do for your everyday? How can you be healthier and feel better about the quality of your life? And those two big issues, healthcare for all and universal healthcare, would have been in a couple of the bills had it not been for a few members of Congress that just refused to support it, right? So for me, I continue, that fight just absolutely continues. But I think it's how we will turn this country around if we have healthcare for all and if we have universal childcare. And just with regard to your question about other countries, every other country of the top 33 industrialized countries have universal childcare and universal healthcare. And all of their mortality rates are better than ours. All of them. So the proof is in the pudding, right? So let's do what everybody else is doing well, and let's do it. We can probably even do it better because we're Americans, right? We can do it better. Let's do it.
When you look at your book, like I say, you can get her book on Amazon, A Life Made from Scratch, Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, Mompreneur, and Unstoppable Political Activist. It's available. People can get it. When you look at how it dives into your story, your personal story, how does storytelling for you help build not just empathy in the political space, but also give a unique lens for the reader when they dive in?
Yeah, it's I'll tell you why I wrote it. It is because I was nobody special. I was just a working mom trying to make ends meet, trying to get my kids' healthcare and childcare covered, by the way, because I was doing every mom that's on this call will resonate. Like sometimes you have to do the, hey, on Tuesdays I'm going to take her to my Aunt Tanya, and then on Wednesdays I'm going to take my child to daycare at the YMCA, and I was doing that whole program forever, right? Trying to figure out, make ends meet, and all of that. And what I realized is that that's most of the nation, right? And so my life has been like that. I've had a lot of resonating problems that I've had to solve from scratch. Every single problem that I've had, whether it was my child was severely bullied, and there were no answers, there was no manual, there was no guide. I wrote another book called When Your Child is Being Bullied and Solutions. I wrote that because there wasn't a manual. So I figured, what if I wrote a book about the things that I've tried to solve? So I was an anti-bullying expert. My daughter transitioned from male to female. That was an unusual thing, and that takes a certain set of skills, right, and a certain plan, right? I ran for Congress. I started a small business. I started a nonprofit, right? So what I realized is all these things that I built from scratch might be helpful to someone else, because we're all builders. We're Americans. We build different things. We build solutions. So why not have something out there that helps people feel good about what they're doing and maybe gives them some other ideas? Because I have, steps in there that actually help you with your plan. And so it's one thing to say, yeah, go do it. It's in my book, I say, go do it. And here's how.
And speaking of the how, when people take time to dive deeply into your book, they might feel different types of emotions. They might feel, well, gee, what can I actually do? Is my voice actually going to be heard? They might feel overwhelmed just by all the headlines. What are some simple things that they can do now when it comes to creating lasting change in their community?
So for me, and I'll speak kind of in three different channels. So when I was trying to figure out how to end my child's bullying, he was bullied very severely, and it required both therapy and hospitalization, right? So I started using the Google machine and started learning about bullying, right? Because I wasn't an expert. I talked to experts. Then I built a coalition in my community, right? What nobody wants to talk about is that there's bullying in their perfect little community, right? And I lived in a little suburb where everybody thought, oh, we don't have bullying here. But if you're honest and you're open and you talk about a problem, then guess what? Other people have that problem. You come together as a coalition, you bring in your experts, and all of a sudden you're building a solution, right? So it's really this kind of rinse, wash, repeat, whether it was my daughter's transition from male to female. My family has had a myriad of different mental health issues, is that it starts with me reading a lot, talking to experts, then talking to people that have the same problem, right? Coming together, and then we build solutions together like a team. And I will say that formula is a winner, and it's kind of how all of these things go that I talk about in my book. And you probably noted I get a little raw in there because people have to understand how real these are. When mental health problems and challenges are very real for families. And that's why I really tell the whole deal. Like, I'm very open about that. Because we do have to normalize mental health challenges in this country and help everybody understand every family has it, every single family. So yes, getting raw and then learning about it and building a team, it's kind of the best formula to solve problems.
Once again, listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, former Congresswoman Marie Newman. Go to her website, marienewmanstudio.com. Talking about also her book that you can get on Amazon, A Life Made from Scratch, Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, Mompreneur, and Unstoppable Political Activist. My next question to follow up on everything you said, speaking of just being active and getting involved, people who are watching us and listening to us on podcast or radio, they might say, I'm inspired by your story. Yeah. This is something that I can relate to. When it comes to politics, when it comes to bipartisan opportunities, what's some things that we can do better when it comes to hearing one another?
Oh, gosh. I'm so glad you asked that question because it's one of my heart spots. So I write a Substack column every Wednesday, and almost inevitably, every topic comes around to how can we talk to each other better? And the reality is there are people that are in my immediate world that I find their views on things almost vile, right? Like and I stay away from those people, but there are people that are on the fringe of things and have weird ideas about things just because they've never been exposed. So I'll give you an example. My daughter is trans, right? And she had a couple of family friends that didn't understand what it meant to be trans. And once I started talking to them like they're a parent, and I said, that's my baby. She's my baby. And she felt awful about herself. Once she realized her authentic self, she was feeling better. So I found the common lived experience. So I told one story about Evie, right? So what I would share with all of your listeners and friends is that we all are humans, right? And we all have the lived experience, and we all have people that are related to us. If you can tell a story about a close friend or a family member that will turn somebody's notion, concept, or idea around, then it's super powerful, right? Because we share that very human connection. And I try to do that wherever I go. I share a story because as soon as you know someone that has whatever challenge it is, or whatever community from, or whatever tradition, ethnicity, group, community, whatever they're from, and I share that, then people start to understand better. Oh, this is real. That's your family, right? So share your lived experience with people that don't have the same lived experience. I think it's the most powerful thing we can do.
And since you talked a little bit more about your daughter, you mentioned bullying.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
Yeah,
she was the one that wasn't bullied. My son, which is my older child, was the one that was bullied. And because everybody thinks that, that of course she got bullied because she really wasn't. But my son, that is my oldest child, was severely bullied.
Well, I appreciate you because I was just.
It seems counterintuitive. Yeah.
When you had to experience bullying for your child and understand it wasn't the trans one, it was the other one.
Yeah.
What was the way you navigate that world? I personally was bullied when I was growing up. I was super young, probably kindergarten, first grade. But when you understand that that stuff can really cause trauma for a kid, how were you able to navigate that as a parent and also address it so that way they can have the confidence when they get older?
Yeah, well, for better or worse, my son who was bullied has a mother that is, and I don't want to offend pit bull owners because I'm a huge dog fan, so I love all dogs. But, the old saying that, you can be a pit bull. Well, I am. So if I get a dog with a bone, it's like, get out of my way. And so I really realized at that point, before I had even really felt strongly about a life made from scratch, is that this was like 16, 17 years ago, right? And once I started telling his story, you create empathy, right? And you create a sense of knowing. And that's what I tried to do, is that I just opened up a very sticky subject. There's a saying that I have is that when you're at a party, and there's a big sticky ball in the middle of the room, and everybody keeps walking way around it and pretending it's not there, maybe you need to pick up that sticky ball, right? And take care of it, take care of the problem. And so I do inevitably, like it is always my job, because no one else is going to do it. So I figure, well, no one else wants to do it. I'm not qualified to do it, but I'm going to do it. So I get in there and pick up the sticky ball and figure it out. And my son really appreciated that I was his ride or die, right? Simple as can be. And he knew that. And I think that he had a couple of close friends that were helpful and some amazing therapists. And, he was on anxiety medication and a bunch of different things. But you're right, Shmaya, it is scarring for life. And he will always wear those scars. And that, as a mother, kills me when I think about that. It absolutely kills me. I would rather that I could wear those scars on my face for him rather than him to, take that on. So, so for me, what you have to communicate to your kids is that I am with you, ride or die, no matter what, and I am going to solve this for you. And while I didn't solve every problem, right, but we made a lot of progress. And so that's what you have to communicate to your kids.
When you see how personal life, professional life, political world, it can all be a roller coaster ride, to say the least.
Yeah.
What's some of the things you learned and maybe appreciate once you got out of that world, and maybe you can shed light to the audience as far as was it really like being in politics?
Yeah, I am so appreciative and honored to have been in Congress. I really did. And I had an amazing team. My staff were like family to me. They were all brilliant and all very young, between like 25 and 35, right? Brilliant, great ideas, amazing work ethic and the whole deal, right? I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from my mentors in Congress. There were a lot of, I should assure everybody, there are a lot of amazing people in Congress. And I can make a big list for you, but we have constitutional scholars that really understand the law. There are doctors, there are social workers, there are nurses, there are teachers, there are people like me, which were just nonprofit leaders and business people that really care about certain issues. And for me, I have this North Star, and it's called equity for all. Everybody deserves to have equity in their life, right? And in their society. And right now we have too many people that are marginalized. So I felt like my job was to go to Congress and really speak for marginalized communities and really speak for people that didn't have equity. We can't get to equality until we have equity. That's just plain and simple. I hate to break it to everyone in the world, but it's true. So a lot of people believe that in Congress. There are a few that are not so great. I mean, let's be honest. And by the way, they're not all in the Republican Party. There were some Democrats that take money from dark places and that kind of thing. So I tried to concentrate on the good ones and learn from them. And I learned a lot. Also got a lot done and watched a lot of very good public servants do good public service, right? And then I also watched some people be very deceitful, very unkind, very unjust, very egotistic, all of those things. And what I realized is I can't fix all that. So I never went back into politics after I was redistricted out of my district and lost my election because we reduced the number of districts in my state. But I also believe that was God's plan, because I feel like I'm more powerful now as an activist again, because I started out as an activist and became an activist again. And now I feel like I can do more. I can teach other people how to be an activist. I can push on getting money out of politics and push for healthcare for all and push for universal childcare. And so I tell everybody, keep pushing, keep going.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, our special guest, former Congresswoman Marie Newman. I know we're getting close to the close, but when you think about opportunities of young people, our audience, we hit 25 to 35-year-old males. When you think about the opportunity for this next generation of not just voters, but influencers and people who are leaders in the community, what's one word of wisdom that you will hope that they will be able to not just gain from your book, but personally that you will want to message out for them?
You know what? Two things. Speak up and out. Speak up to power. Don't let bad, powerful leaders continue on. And if you have the what I call the stuff, run for Congress, run for your local school board, run for your library board, run for your state rep or state senator position. Because you know what? Lived experience means a lot. Like if you have a lived experience, like when I was in my 20s, I worked 3 jobs and I didn't have any health care, right? I had no health care coverage for like 6 years. And I had a very strong lived experience and still remember the hurt and the scare that I had, right? So use your lived experience and go do something powerful, whether it is, you can be powerful and be a banker, right? You can make sure that redlining is ended once and for all in this country. You can be a powerful social worker and make sure things are fair for people. You can be a powerful teacher and teach them everything. You can be a powerful investment broker and teach people financial literacy. Like, you can be powerful for good in no matter what your position is. But if you do feel like you want to be a public servant, run for office. There are so many people with really strong lived experience. In fact, I will tell you, in 26 and 28, I am only voting for people that have actually had the lived experience where they have had hurt and pain and challenge, because otherwise they don't get it. I'm just being honest.
Well, if you've been listening to us, you can get a copy of your book. It's available on Amazon. Show on the screen real fast. It's real simple to find. I hope you get your copy today, because it's something that you can check out. Once again, it's a life made from scratch, lessons from a controversial congresswoman, mompreneur, and unstoppable political activist. Like always, I want to say to our special guest, not only thank you for your time, because I know you took some time to be with us today, but you have a lot of things that are in store for the future. So before we officially close, is there any way our viewers and audience can keep tabs on you, just in case you have any tours or any events you do?
Oh my gosh, that's so nice of you. And yes, there's two ways. So I have a website that's called marienewmanstudio.com. It's my name plus studio.com, marienewmanstudio.com. And I have a list of events on there, and they're constantly being updated. So you can go to the event section. I also have a weekly Substack. If everybody is familiar with the substack.com app, I write a weekly column that goes out on Wednesday mornings at 7:30, and I talk about politics, mental health, families, kind of you name it. I'm an observer of life, but you can catch me in either of those forums, and always ask me a question. I do answer every question that comes to me, just so you know.
Well, like I always want to say to our special guest, former Congresswoman Marie Newman, thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was lovely chatting.